stopping by the 33 Kings studio to hang with your old buddy, Uncle Jay. Now, I've always been intrigued by the paranormal, ghost stories, UFOs, cryptids, Bigfoot, and things of that nature. And well, Appalachia is full of these stories. And if you are a paranormal enthusiast, well, the Bell Witch is probably something you're very familiar with. One of the only cases that's ever been given credit for a murder, a ghost, an entity given credit for murder. Now, I have to ask myself, was this something that was meticulously well planned out? And did someone kill John Bell and actually blame a ghost for murder? Let's take a different look at this story as Haunted Appalachia explores the Bell Witch. Well, the story of the Bell Witch takes us to the heartland of Tennessee, the home of country music, the land of Dollywood, the beautiful Smoky Mountains, and, well, some of the greatest scenery in the world. Well, our journey begins in a place called Robertson County, Tennessee, where a farmer, John Bell Sr., resided with his family along the Red River in an area currently near the town of Adams. Now, according to legend, from 1817 to 1821, his family and the whole local area came under attack by a mostly invisible entity that was able to speak and affect the physical environment and shapeshift. The haunting began sometime in 1817 when John Bell witnessed the apparition of a strange creature that resembled a dog, but it had ears that resembled a rabbit. Bell fired at the animal, but it disappeared. Now, John's son, Drew Bell, approached an unknown bird perched on a fence that flew off, and it was extraordinary in size. And the daughter, Betsy, observed a girl in a green dress swinging from a limb of an oak tree. Now, after these strange occurrences, the Bell family started noticing more activity in the house, with knocking heard along the doors, the walls. The family heard sounds of gnawing on the beds, kind of like invisible dogs fighting, and chains along the floor. And about this time, John started experiencing some type of paralysis around his mouth area. Now, the intensity grew, and around the children, where the children slept, they experienced the sheets being pulled off of them, and some of the entities even pulled the hair of the children. But the particular emphasis was put on Betsy, who was slapped, punched, pinched, and sometimes stuck with things. Exhausted by the terrifying events in the home, the Bells turned to a family friend named James Johnston. After retiring for an evening at the Bell home, Johnson was awoke that night by the same terrifying events that John Bell had described to him. That morning he told John Bell it was just like a spirit from the Bible, but the evil ones. Soon word of the haunting spread, with some other people traveling great distances to see the so-called witch. The apparition began to speak. When it was asked, "Who are you and what do you want?" the voice answered, "I'm a spirit. I was once very happy, but I've been disturbed." The spirit offered a very good explanation to why it had appeared, tying its origin to the disturbance of a Native American burial ground located on the Bell property. Now, there are reports that Drew Bell and Bennett Porter went searching for this Native American burial ground mound, and Never found it. But I have to ask, why the malice towards John Bell? If the disturbance was attributed to a Native American burial mound that they didn't know about, then they didn't disturb it, then why was there malice gained toward John, and especially his daughter, Betsy? Let's go on and we'll see. Now, even though the witch seemed to focus most of her evil intent toward John and Betsy, at times the spirit displayed some kindness, especially towards Lucy, John Bell's wife. The witch would give Lucy fresh fruit and sing hymns to her and showed John Bell Jr. a measure of respect as well. But she referred to old John Bell Sr. as Old Jack, and the witch claimed that she intended to kill him and signaled this intention through curses, threats, and afflictions. Well, finally, the old witch poisoned John. And after the funeral, mourners could hear drinking songs being sang and laughing and similar voices. Now, the witch had one request, and that was that Betsy did not marry her fiancé, Joshua Gardner. However, after John's death, one would think that the Bell Witch would have stopped. But she didn't. She kept on. And there's people today that still go to the area of the Bell Witch Cave to see if they can get their own experience. And there have been. And it's reported that, well, the Bell family still is haunted by the witch. Let's take some looks at that. Some of their encounters and some of the things that they say still to this day.
Been around for millions of years.
It had to be something very powerful to do what it did, but it never led on to what it actually was. They didn't understand why it was coming after our family. And when it was asked about why it was coming after the Bell family, or after John, the spirit said he just needs killing.
People in the area continue to claim to see sightings of the Bell Witch. They claim to hear her in the middle of the night. They hear the sounds of things in the house or maybe in the woods, and they will attribute that to the Bell.
According to history, John Bell's death was attributed to a spirit, and it's the only person I know in the history of the United States whose death was attributed to a spirit. I've come to the conclusion that something definitely did happen. I've seen a letter, a handwritten letter from 1820, the year John died, of two boys riding home to their mother on their trip to see the angel at the Bell House. And they were able to get to the house, and the first night they said nothing happened, and the second night it happened, and said, "Mom, it's not an angel, it's the devil."
And this is part of the legend that continues on through the years. The Bell family is still here in Robertson County, and it has a bloodline that exists till to today. And because of that, the story just keeps getting passed generation to generation and is kept alive.
Bob Bell is one of those descendants. He has no doubts his family's stories are true. Like his fifth great-grandfather, John, Bob has also been a target inside his own home.
I had just gotten ready to get in the bed, and everything was really quiet then. And then I heard at the end of that hall, the double doors slam shut, both doors. And one of them latches, so they had to be unlatched, and they had to slam them shut. And there was footsteps came down the hall and stopped at my door, and the hair on my neck stood up. And me not being superstitious, I thought somebody was in the house. You know, I thought we had an intruder, and I was truly scared. That's probably the most scared I've ever been. So I went downstairs, I went to our gun cabinet, and I found a .45. I loaded it, put a round in the chamber, and I had it cocked. I was gonna shoot somebody. And I went room to room, SWAT team style, and took me about a half hour to go through the whole house because there's two sets of stairs. And I went back and forwards and looked everywhere in that house. There was nobody there. And I slept with the door locked, pistol by the bed, and my light on. I was upstairs taking a nap, and I heard this crash, this loud noise. And I came downstairs and then came into the kitchen, and I looked on the floor, and all my china was on the kitchen floor. Well, the odd part about it was there's a butler's pantry between the kitchen and the dining room that had the china cabinet built into the wall with latching doors. And the doors came open, and all the china, every single piece came out and crashed on the floor, not in the butler's pantry, but in the kitchen. And I just remember seeing it spread just evenly, like it was just thrown out on the floor. And not one piece was broken, and it was bone china. So it was, I have no explanation of how that happened or why it happened, but it was still unexplained by anybody today.
Now, there are some reports that Betsy Bell actually learned how to be a ventriloquist, and that would explain for some of the voice throwing and things of that. But it doesn't explain for the supernatural phenomenon to still be occurring with the Bell family. Anyway, something that we'll never know, so many misguided facts, so many falsehoods, and well, you can't separate fact from fiction when a story happened 200 years ago. But one must admit, the story of the Bell Witch is one of the most intriguing and interesting ghost stories in all of Appalachia. So thanks for hanging with Uncle Jay. And if you like what I'm doing, hey, hit that like button, that subscribe, hit that notification bell. And remember, there's no obligation to you at all whatsoever, but it really helps us out. Thanks.